I'm like out of breath for some reason. Like walking from here to the bathroom to pee.
Yep.
Kind of rough.
Rough life.
We're getting old.
That's the epitome of old right there.
I know.
Get out of breath, go and pee.
What's up, Kevin?
Hi.
I'm here in Las Vegas. I have not visited you since you moved out here to Las Vegas.
No, because I think the only time you've been out here, I was either gone or something. I can't remember why I didn't see it. Or you were just super busy at SEMA.
Yeah, so I was here last year for SEMA and didn't get a chance to meet up with you because of the hectic schedule, but I did see you a couple months prior in September in California when we came out on the TGC America tour with the E23, because you just so happened to be out at Disney World, Disneyland, with a few friends, and you came by the motoring club for our TGC meet.
Had to go say goodbye to that car because I wanted it.
Man, it would have been cool for you to end up with that car because it would look really good sitting in your garage next to the GTI or the soon-to-be Tesla. How excited you were about that?
Super excited.
Man, I bet. So
It's the future.
yeah, so it's you got it in black.
Black on black.
First of all, it's a Model 3 Performance Edition or whatever they're calling
Yeah,
it.
Performance Model 3. Yeah.
So cool. Has that come out yet?
Yeah, it's out.
Okay.
They've had them for a little bit. They just did like not even a facelift or whatever, but they did like a chrome delete, which
Yep.
is cool, and changed the wheels. So I think it used to come with 19s that were like a dark gray, and now it's got black. They're like, I forget what they're called, turbo something. So they're like kind of twisted
Okay.
a little bit. They're pretty interesting. They look a lot like the 22s that come on the Model X.
On the X, yeah.
Similar but different, you know?
Yep.
And so it's black wheels, black trim, black car. Obviously, I'm going to go super dark tint because I don't really care about that in Vegas so much.
Exactly. And you kind of need it for the desert heat. I was thinking about this the other day because I saw one drive through like an intersection I was sitting at. I think Tesla and like new BMWs, like new M's are like the only cars, in my opinion, black ones that can pull off black wheels. Like other cars can too, but I'm not big on black wheels on cars.
Yeah.
And that obviously comes down to just like preference of like what you like looking at.
Yeah.
But as far as like OEM cars, I really like the look of like an all black Tesla with black wheels or an all black like M3 with black wheels.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that the other day.
Yeah. My M was the mineral white, and it had the black wheels with like the kind of machined faces.
Yeah, that's
But
right.
it's just the little section that was kind of machined because I usually don't like that, the
Right.
machined faces. But it was done like really well on those, and I like that. But I always wanted to go all black with that because then it's got that like stormtrooper look.
Yeah.
And that had the black chrome trim
Was
as
that
well.
Was that an F80?
F80, yeah.
F80, yeah. Such a cool car. But I mean, the fact that you're getting into that Tesla is pretty cool too. And you're planning on doing a cross country drive.
Yes.
To hopefully even make it up to New Hampshire to my place.
Absolutely.
Next summer. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I talked to a friend who's done it. I think she's done it twice now. She just bought, like straight up just bought a 100D Model X. Like her dad had a bunch of money because he had actually car dealerships on the East Coast somewhere. I think like Jersey maybe.
Yeah.
And he passed away, and she got pretty decent inheritance and stuff like that, and cares about cars, because she kind of
Cool.
grew up with it. And that was like her dream, was this Model X. So she just went up and bought one. I was like, "What's your payment?" She's like, "I don't have one."
That's awesome.
Sick.
But she hit the road in it.
Yeah, her and her boyfriend drove it. I think to Disney World from LA.
Yep.
And then she got him a Model S, black. So they both have black cars.
Yep.
Hers is black with that white interior. It's so sick.
That's pretty cool.
And then they drove that. So they've been taking at least little trips in that. I think they did go cross country in that one as well. So I talked to them about it. I'm like, is it hard? Is it stressful with like charges and stuff like that? And she was like, honestly, no. She's like, the only stressful thing was she was worried about COVID stuff.
Oh yeah.
She's like, honestly, that trumped all of our fears about the car. She said they never even really got close to being like nervous about it running out of charge before they found a charger and stuff.
That's good.
You just have to factor in the extra time.
Right.
But it's honestly, it's not a ton of time because I think a full charge now is like less than an hour.
Yeah, 45 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
And the superchargers are even faster than that, right?
I think that's the supercharger time. Because if you just plug it in on like what is it, 220 or
120 would be
120 is regular, but what's the
power,
appliance one?
Oh, yeah.
I think it's 220 or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. If you do it off that, I mean, it's hours, but it's not crazy. And I mean, most people they plug it in overnight and it does its thing. Also does all its updates and stuff overnight if it's in the Wi-Fi.
That's so crazy.
Insane.
It's so crazy that a car does that now. I mean, I guess it's not crazy for where we are now, but for like someone like me that has like carbureted old cars, I'm like, wait, the car will update itself on Wi-Fi. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
So that's cool. That's a cool development.
Pretty amazing. And like, just the fact that like the performance has gone up in theirs, and it's straight up an update. It's not like, bring it in and we'll put these faster motors on. It's we figured out how to use this energy better, and then it
electronically does it.
Yeah.
That's so nuts.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, that's cool. It's cool that you got that to look forward to. When are you supposed to be collecting it?
It should be like 4 to 6 weeks.
Cool.
I ordered it like less than a month ago, something like that. Yep. I basically when I test drove it, I asked the guy if I want to get it around Christmas or a little before, like when should I order it? And he said the end of October. So I did. That's what I did.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Well, get that out of the way. As far as your new car, that's really exciting.
Yeah. Super excited to drive it far. Because it's like one thing I was really surprised about it, especially being because I test drove a Model S with my stepdad. He was entertaining the idea of buying one. Upstate New York in the middle of nowhere is kind of not the best place for him yet. So I think that's ultimately why he didn't get one.
I get that.
And he drives a ton for work. But when he was out here, like we actually have a dealership, so he wanted to go test drive. So I test drove that with him, just a 100D Model S. And I was like so impressed, and it's super, super comfortable, It's like very minimalistic luxury.
Yeah, exactly.
And so my fear with the Model 3, because it's half the price basically, was that it was going to feel half the price. It's like, and then the fact that I had that M, now I have that, like, this is the standard now. I need, if I want a fast, comfortable car, like I want something at least like this. Yeah. So I expected with the Model 3 to be like kind of let down. And then I test drove it and I was, no, it's great.
That's
it's
awesome. Even
more simple on the inside, which I kind of prefer. Yeah. It's like a steering wheel and a little TV.
Yep. It's so cool.
But as far as like the seats, they're so comfortable, like super, super soft, which is really weird for me, but it still has enough of like a bolster and everything that kind of hugs you a little bit.
That's awesome.
Because it is a pretty impressive performance car. The Performance Model 3 has track mode, which it won't let you engage on public roads.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
That it knows.
It's pretty interesting. So
having a smart car, like an actual smart car.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And I'm excited for like the app. You do everything on the app. It tells you you can tell if you have it plugged into a charger or whatever, you just look on your app and it'll tell you how far along it is. And that's only going to expand, like the Model X has that summon mode. You just use your phone and you're like, come here, and it'll drive to you.
It's so nuts.
That's which wild. It's a little primitive right now, but not too long. And I didn't pay now for the upgrade for the automated like everything, so like in city driving. I don't think I would ever want that. But if I ever do want it, it's just available. Software. I can just add it.
That's crazy.
That's pretty amazing. I haven't done as much research as I really should have before I pulled the trigger, but honestly I saw enough and I was happy. Just the cool little things.
Well, speaking of the city, being here in Las Vegas, you've been out here for 3 years now?
No, 8.
Oh my goodness gracious.
8 years.
Oh man, time
July
flies.
Was 8 years.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, because you and I, well, if we take it all the way back to the beginning, 2005.
Was it 5 or 6?
2005 was when I first started riding for the Take.
Yeah,
mid-year 2005. So long story short, as far as the Take, for anyone listening that doesn't know, FBM, BMX Frame and Component Company from upstate New York, started a sub company called the Take, and FBM kind of always had the image of like bonfire drinking party dudes jumping huge gaps, jumping down huge stair sets and just kind of
dirt jump parties with fire in the middle.
Yes, and lots of PBR and just like and all good dudes, but just that was
great.
That was the FBM image.
Yeah.
And Steve Crandall had established a distribution company on top of FBM called Last Call Distribution, and we're distributing some other companies' brands or components. And they ended up starting a sub company called The Take. And The Take, oddly enough, was headed up by Jeff Harrington and Jarrett Ward at the beginning. Jeff Harrington worked Last Call Distribution, and it had like an opposite end of the spectrum. Image where Jeff Harrington's straight edge, Jarrett was straight edge, and The Take had this real clean aesthetic look. And it really wasn't that established when I first started hanging out with those guys.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I ever met them was in 2004. I finally drove out there. I graduated high school in 2003, and in all the videos I'd bought, or all the props videos I'd seen, I'd always seen footage of East Coast Terminal. And that skate park,
the Holy Land.
Yeah, the skate park looked nuts. And obviously, FBM was, their FBM's warehouse or machine shop
like underneath it.
Was in the it was underneath the skate park in this old like warehouse in Binghamton, New York. And
Johnson City, technically.
Technically, you're right. And it just always seemed so fascinating. It was like this dark warehouse, graffiti everywhere, and it just looked amazing. So, two friends of mine and I like just went out there one time. We're just gonna road trip out to Binghamton and go to East Coast Terminal, and so we loved it so much that we started going back every now and then. And that's when I started.
6 hours, 6.5, something like that.
7 from me.
Yeah, I guess technically because it was 6.5 for me, but I was a little closer.
Yeah, I had to go down to southern New Hampshire, cut across Vermont into Albany, and then head out through Schenectady, and then 88 down to Binghamton.
Dodging all the deer on the way.
Yeah, so we ended up going out there a few times, and each time we'd meet more locals. And I can't remember exactly when I met you, but basically would see Jeff and Jared at the skate park, and the Courts brothers and Dave Harrison and the guys that actually worked in the FBM shop. And over time, Jeff and Jarrett would kind of pick my brain about what I liked in a frame, just a natural and normal conversation.
Yeah.
What I liked in geometry and stuff. And at
BMX
the time,
boys being BMX boys.
Yeah. And I didn't really know. I just kind of talked about what I liked doing for tricks and what I thought geometry would like and whatever. So I've told this story before, but basically they surprised me by the new street frame they were designing. They were kind of listening to the things that I liked about a frame.
With that like steep head to angle and stuff like that.
Yeah. And Mike Tagg had some input on that as well. And so they basically surprised me by posting the One True Ave street frame prototype on their website, saying that I was going to be its test pilot, but nobody called me. Jeff and Jared.
I actually didn't know that.
Oh, you didn't know that?
Yeah, I didn't know that they surprised you. I thought they were just talking to you about it, and that's how it went.
Nope. So basically what happened was I was just going out to Binghamton every now and then riding with those guys. And I can't even remember specific conversations. I just remember them just being like, what do you like? And, you kind of do some front wheel tricks, like what do you like in geometry and stuff. And I'm sure I wasn't the only person they were trying to get, information from. But one night at home in New Hampshire, I went on the website, thetakeonlife.com, and the very last...
Such a good website name.
So cool.
They did so many clever things.
Yep. And everything, all the apparel, everything was American apparel. Like everything was super nice. Nothing was ever Gildan or
Jeff was really adamant about that.
And he printed
Jarrett was obviously on board too. It was great.
Yeah, and he printed everything himself. Jeff had a carousel in his basement or in your guys' basement.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that.
I was down there half the time.
Yeah, I'm sure. So I went to the website one night, and the last blog post was the new One True Ave street frame. Like they were unveiling it, and it was a photo of it like on a table, and it was like, introducing our One True Ave frame, that'll be available soon. Here's the prototype. Here's what we've done. And as I'm reading through the paragraph, it's all the geometry that I was like pretty stoked on. And I was riding a 19-inch frame at the time. And this prototype frame was 19 inches. And I remember as I'm reading, because there was only a handful of like guys that were riding short frames. And the only reason why I wrote a short frame was because I had broken a frame in 2003, and a friend of mine gave me an old We the People flatland frame that was 19 inches. And I learned a lot of tricks on that frame, so I just felt comfortable on a short frame.
Short.
So when I met Jeff and Jared, I was on a Hamilton Federal 19-inch frame, Stephen Hamilton's signature frame. Yeah. So anyways, I'm reading about the One True Ave frame. It says, it gives the geometry, and it was a 19-inch frame. And I remember this little twinkle was like going off in me. And I'm like, whoa, like nobody rides 19-inch frames, and they made this in a 19.
Yeah.
As it was almost like a precursor. And as I kept reading, they're talking about how excited they were about getting this frame out into the hands of, the kids. And at the end, it said this prototype frame is on its way to New Hampshire to our good friend John Ludwick or whatever. And nobody had called me. Yeah. I'm reading this on the website. That's so great.
I didn't know that at all.
And well, doesn't it fit with Jeff and Jared's like whole shtick, so I'm freaking out, and I'll never forget how that made me feel. Like that was my first sponsorship. Like I had ridden for this clothing company out of Massachusetts, but there was no money involved or it was just clothing. I'd get t-shirts and stuff. Yeah.
Which is cool, especially when you're young. Yeah.
Yes, amazing, especially coming from a small town in Meredith, New Hampshire.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget. I couldn't believe it. I remember reading it like 5 or 6 times. Like there's no, and like seeing my name, and I kept looking at the screen. I'm like, that actually says my name. So I called Jeff. I think it was Jeff. I had both their numbers, but I called Jeff, and I was like freaking out. I'm like, I just checked the website. Like, why didn't somebody tell me? Like, what's going on here? And Jeff kind of laughed and he was just like, yeah, we were just joking, like wondering if you ever checked the website. Yeah. And I was like, well, what if I didn't check the website? And he just laughed. It's like, yeah. And I was like, I don't understand. So anyway, so that's speeding forward. That's when I started really spending a lot more time out there. I came out there a lot, and I was like a part of the take. The only rider on the team up until that point was Ty Stuyvesant. He was the only one.
Yeah.
And so I was like the first like street rider on the team. It was my first like quote unquote pro sponsorship. And so I started hanging out at the house, and I think that's when I first met you, because you were living in the house with Jarrett and Jeff.
I can't remember if we met at the house on like Road Street or if we met at East Coast.
ECT, maybe. Was Jeremy Pavia living there too at the time?
Yeah.
Okay, so Pavia was the photographer and all around awesome dude. But it seemed like that was why it was the take house. It was Jeff and Jarrett, who were kind of like the like owners, but
it felt like there was the take house and the FBM house, and I mean that's kind of what we called it, and they were a few blocks away from each other, and we'd all go ride together and stuff like that. But it was the FBM house would go party, and we would go back home and do our nerd shit.
Yeah, exactly. So cool. So that's how we met, and you were in your role was basically like you're doing a lot of design work.
Yeah.
For the take.
Yeah, me and Jarrett basically did everything. Jarrett obviously at first, and then the way that I ended up living there, I don't remember exactly how it went down, but I got to a point where I started to go to ECT like almost twice a week. And at the time I was living in my hometown, Oriskany Falls.
Yep.
So it was like a 2-hour drive. And I would just like, me and a couple of friends would hop in, and whoever I could get to go, whether they skateboarded or rode BMX or whatever, we would go. And it got to be where it was like, I'm taking way too many trips here, and I've obviously always had the passion for BMX, and there's nothing in Oriskany Falls.
Right. I've been there.
Yeah. There's not even any street, like curb.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, it got to where I was just going like all the time. And then, I was talking with Jeff one day, and I'm pretty sure he just offered a room. Like he had a spare room, and he was like, hey, if you want to move to Binghamton, I got a room, sort of a thing. And I was like, sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I was working at, where was I working at the time? I was working in a grocery store, and the grocery store actually closed.
Yeah.
So it was like, all right, I got no real reason.
In Oriskany Falls?
It was in Clinton.
Okay, but your area.
Yeah, in my area.
Yeah.
So I went down there. I got a job at Lowe's actually, and it was cool because I was like overqualified for whatever, because I was doing like customer service and running the front end and stuff at the grocery store. So I started as a cashier, and I think I worked like a week and a half or something, and the sales manager was like, you're in the wrong spot. So he put me in installed sales, and I made like more than double the amount of a cashier or whatever. I was like, oh, cool. And as a BMX kid, I was like, I only need like 15 cents a day to live.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, I'll eat peanut butter and jelly and ramen and go ride my bike, and I'm
Exactly.
happy. I'm pretty sure I paid Jeff like $200 a month.
Perfect.
I was like, yeah, it was pretty good.
Awesome.
And then just, rode ECT as much as possible, and which was great. Missed that place.
Yeah, same.
Even if I only rode the small stuff 90% of the time,
it was the atmosphere.
It was so good.
It really was the atmosphere.
Everybody there was awesome.
We were talking about that last night, like Joel Barnett and seeing Jeremy Pavia ride there, and watching
Jeremy ride was like definitely one of my favorites, because it's just like he had like every inch of that place figured out to be smooth.
Right.
I mean, I saw him get squirrely on stuff like twice.
Right.
It was always super smooth, and his Vans slip-ons and like
trail style rider.
Yeah.
Yeah. So once I started coming out there, that's when I met you, obviously, in the boys and all that.
Yeah.
And that rolled probably until 07 for me. I think you were still in Binghamton at that point.
Yeah, probably.
07.
Yeah.
And then when Jarrett left first, or was let go first, or whatever happened.
I really don't remember.
And then when Jeff ended up leaving, boy, I can't remember.
I think right then Jarrett went to Ohio.
That's
I
right.
think he went back to Ohio then. And then Jeff and his girlfriend, they were going to Illinois.
They moved to Peoria.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So I went with her first because she got like an engineering job with Caterpillar out there.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I did forget that you went to Peoria with them for a while.
Yeah, so I went with her first, and the plan was he was just going to sell his house, and then I think he used that money or whatever to possibly start like a skate park. We were going to continue with, take stuff or whatever, and do the skate park. And like the plan was, in theory, that I would like work the skate park and work the take stuff, and it would be kind of living the dream,
Right.
Ride the park every day and whatnot. And then I really didn't like Illinois, and especially we were in such a the town that we lived in technically was called Camp Grove. There were 65 people in the town.
Wow.
It was a post office and a bar.
Man.
So I drove like 45 minutes to go work at Lowe's, and like you don't really make enough money for that commute at Lowe's, and Illinois weather gets pretty gnarly and stuff like that. So it was kind of a struggle, and I was like waiting for Jeff, and then by the time he got out there, plans had changed a little bit as far as like the skate park thing, and just didn't seem feasible. And I was kind of like, I don't know if I could really tough it out here. So that's when I moved back home.
Yep. And that's when I visited you once or a few times
in the Fox
there. Yep. In my Fox wagon that I somehow drove all the way out there.
I can't believe it made it. I remember in front of my parents' house, there was like the road kind of crested, and you would just roll over it and shoot sparks all the way down the road.
I've still got that clip somewhere.
Yeah.
You filmed me driving down the road in front of your house, just dragging the car.
Yeah.
It was on coilovers.
Completely beached. Remember we went to the mall?
Oh, and the floor separated.
Yeah, because there was that little it was like a manhole, but it was like sunken in.
Yeah.
And you tried to like straddle it, and it just bashed the bottom of the car.
Yep, hit the bottom of the car, and I can't remember if you were riding shotgun or if Tony Blair was riding shotgun.
I was riding shotgun, yeah.
When the floor separated from the rocker.
Yeah.
Because the car, I mean, and I haven't talked too much about this car, but custom coilover is like one of the first like Fox wagons that sat static like on the ground.
And could fit a tank in the back.
A miniature gas-powered 2-seater tank, which I still have.
Yeah.
But that car had made contact with the ground so often and for so long that, I'd have to do constant checks. Probably not as often as I should have. Make sure everything was still like holding together.
There were definitely holes in it when I rode in it.
I'd ground through a lot of that car. And then I remember, we hit that. It was in like the mall parking lot. And that floor actually like broke away from the rocker and it like ripped the carpet and you could see outside, and I was like, oh yeah, that's not good. It wasn't rust, it was from like grinding the floor away on the car. This was like basically a Japanese VIP car in 2011.
You had your at that time, did it have the oil cooler or whatever on the front?
It had that for just a little bit, and it was on there for the Eurotuner magazine shoot. And that caused a stir because I was a huge, still am, but even 10 years ago, I was a massive Japanese car culture nerd, whether or not it was Bosozoku or Shakotan or VIP or whatever. So the two-door Fox wagons really had like a two-door Japanese Corolla wagon look to it. So yeah, I had an external oil cooler on the front of the car, and the majority of people in the Volkswagen community were like, what is that? Like, I even had people being like, what's that, an intercooler? And I'm like, there's hydraulic line going to it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not an intercooler. But that was featured in Eurotuner magazine. The car was on the cover. It had...
And you were BMXing in there. I remember that.
Yeah, that's right. I had a 2-page spread in the contents section. Like, it was a shot of like the skate park. My friend Josh Brown shot that whole feature. And it was like, we shot it in the indoor skate park, and you could see the car and the mini tank. And like, so I had a 2-page spread there when you first opened the issue up. Then it had like a 6-page feature with the centerfold. And I remember the next month issue. I bought the next month issue because in the reader's notes or letters to the editor or whatever, most of that was trash talking my Fox.
Yeah.
Where people were like, what's that garbage? Like a thing hanging off the front. And
yeah.
It's like matte tan. And I remember reading one of the letters said, you know, like, I've got a Mark V that like is way nicer than that. And I remember, I forgot who the actual editor-in-chief was at Eurotuner, but they were kind of like, that's why we featured this car, because it wasn't a Mark V.
Yeah.
You know, but anyway.
It's interesting.
But yeah, so that car was...
I don't know why people hate on interesting cars.
I don't know. I mean, I wasn't doing
like,
it
anytime you see a car that's like undrivable with camber and stuff like that, to me, I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe somebody would do that. You know, it's so interesting.
It's obviously gone like off the rails in many ways now, but back then it was like, most of that stuff was... I'd say most, I don't know, but some of it was done right and safe.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of guys out there hacking stuff up. But
I like the unsafe ones too. I mean, it's just interesting. It's just somebody had a vision. Me, from an artist standpoint, like, somebody had a vision and they executed it. Even if they executed it poorly, it's like, it's still cool. You know?
Yeah, especially if the unsafe ones are sitting in the driveway, not coming at me down the road.
Or trailered to a show or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, so that car was fun. That was my daily. And I came out and visited you. And that shortly after that is when you came out to my place.
You know what? The first time you came, you had that GLI. I think that was the first time. The little Jetta GLI that was like that green color, because it was the mixture of two.
Oh, okay. So now we're getting, now we're getting into your tattoo, the beginning of your tattoo days.
Yeah.
Because I totally forgot about that. Because, in 2008, after my time with the Take, I was riding for Versa, that frame company I designed my signature frame with. But I had that Mark II GLI Jetta with a full Riger body kit on it, and
I love that thing. Actually,
Recaro interior. It was really cool. It was that was the first car of like my modifying cars stage, where it was like BMX only, and then starting to get more into cars. Even though I grew up in a garage, but I forgot about that because 2008, at 24 years old, I drove out to your house to get my first tattoo. And you had just started tattooing.
Yeah.
And we just talked about this the other night, because I always thought it was your second tattoo, but it was within the first 5 tattoos that you had ever done.
Yeah.
And at 24, I didn't have any tattoos. And I remember I was working as an assistant manager at a Hot Topic at the time with a 45-minute commute, which we were... Actually, I had moved to Manchester, which was like 15 minutes away, but regardless, either way, I was like an assistant manager there, dark time of my life, but not proud of it. But I closed up one night.
On theme for Hot Topic.
Yeah.
I have dark times to be there.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's why. Cha-ching. But I'd closed up. It was like 10 o'clock at night, and I was planning on driving out to your place that night or in the morning. I think it was that night. And I remember pacing around in the parking lot before getting in my car to call my parents to just let them know. Like, for
you were going to get a tattoo?
My relationship with my parents is like pretty close. And although I knew even at 24 years old, not living at home, I could do whatever I wanted, it still mattered to me like, I always was bouncing advice or trying to get advice back from my parents about stuff. Like, even if I knew it was a bad idea, like, I'd almost, whether or not I rebelled from that advice or I took that advice, I'm that close with my parents. So I knew.
I was always the same way, pretty much. Yeah. With my mom. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just knew that if I just showed up, because my parents are not into the idea of tattoos.
Yeah.
Like, but they don't judge people with tattoos. They just didn't want their kids hanging with the wrong crowd and quote unquote
Trust
getting
me,
tattooed.
I deal with that a lot in my career. You know what I mean?
And so I just remember pacing back and forth, basically like, dialing my parents' number and like getting to the last digit and just like Xing out of it and just walking around. And I was stressing out so hard. So anyway, I made the phone call they didn't, they weren't mad or anything. It was for me getting over that hump.
Yeah.
And drove out to you. Yeah. And that's where, you were living in the apartment above your mom's house, and you tattooed the inside of my bicep. First tattoo I ever had. And I remember like stomping my foot on the floor. It was like super late at night. I remember I had the headphones on or something.
Yeah.
And I remember just stomping my foot to the beat, like kind of loud. And you're like, hey, it's like 2 a.m. My mom's downstairs sleeping. Are you gonna chill? And I'm like, I'm really trying to make it through this. Like I've got a high threshold for pain, but I did not enjoy that.
I didn't have the technique back then either.
No, you were just going right in on it.
I'm a little baby hands now.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. But that was the beginning of your like new and current career.
Yeah. I never thought it was going to be,
Yep.
that it wasn't my intention. It was just something that I was passionate about,
Yep.
It was one of those things that was like, I never really had like a lane for my art. I can remember like I took every art class in high school and I still never found a lane, and I was like super jealous. I took an AP portfolio class and I was super jealous of the people that had direction in theirs. You know what I mean? Because there was like a list. It was basically like a checklist of things that needed to be in there, like a self-portrait and blah, blah, blah. And so many people had it down and like all of their art fit a theme. And mine was just so sporadic. And I ended up passing the class, but failing the portfolio. Like you needed a 2 to pass or whatever, and I got a 1.
Yeah.
It was like 0 through 5 or something like that. I mean, I didn't get a 0. That's
right,
cool.
right.
But I just remember being so disappointed in myself because, like, first of all, I was lazy. That was when I got really into BMX. I was always into video games. So it was like, that was like my whole life was those 2 things. So I never really put time into any passion,
right?
Anything like that, especially art. I was like, I would doodle with one of my friends who was like, who I looked up to, and his art, who actually completely quit doing art, which is really disappointing. Yeah. I mean, side note on him, he was so interesting. He would draw like characters and stuff like that. And he would literally take one of those like Pilot V5 or V7 pens, and he would draw the outline of a person, like the whole outside of their body.
Wow.
And if there was any imperfection or anything like that, he would just turn it into like a wrinkle on their shirt or like a pouch or
that's
something.
Really cool.
I don't know. Like
that's
insane.
That's what I admire about artists, because I drew a lot in school, middle school,
the process,
high school.
or
what was that?
Like the strange process?
Yeah. Or just how to adapt with how things are going on your canvas. And turn it into without starting over from scratch.
Tattooing is a perfect example of that, because everybody's like, what if you make a mistake? I'm like, we make mistakes all the time. We're doing a tattoo with a vibrating pokey machine on a not flat, not white canvas that moves and breathes. And the flow of ink is never perfectly consistent out of the, you know, so it's like, we make mistakes all the time. It's art, you have to adapt to hide the mistakes or use them or whatever. Like that's half the battle, and it's never perfect. And my goal is to get it as perfect as I feel it can be.
Right.
But it's interesting like that. So anyway, back to like the
beginning.
Yeah. The beginning. I just wanted to do it. I was passionate about tattoos ever since I was a little kid. My dad
had a lot. Yeah.
My dad had tattoos, and, my uncle had some, and just, people in my life had them. And from the time I was a little kid, I was like, I want tattoos. I want lots of them.
Yeah.
And I waited till I was 18, and got my first one. And my mom was like, is that it? And I was like,
no.
So yeah. And then I started to draw tattoo ideas, like for my friends or for myself, or, it just like kind of like neo-traditional, stuff like that. And so my art went in that direction, and as I was drawing that stuff, I was like, okay, I'm really passionate about this stuff. It's like, it feels like the lane.
I was going to say, it felt like you were finding your lane.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Cause like if I painted, which I never did really, I would like paint like landscape stuff. My uncle did that, and I looked up to him, and it felt easy. I was like, oh, maybe this is what I do. Or I would draw like with pencil, I would draw like an animal or something like that. And I was like, oh, like I can recreate what I see. This feels right too. But it was never like, I want to do that. It was just like, and there are 2 separate lanes kind of. And I was like, I don't really know. Or like I said, I looked up to that kid who could draw characters and stuff like that. And I was like, man, I really want to do that. I love video games. It'd be cool to someday be like a character designer or something.
Right.
And then I would try to draw characters and fail miserably. And I'm like, what am I, a loser? Like, I don't understand, you know? Everybody hates their own art anyway. So it was like,
I get that.
Yeah. So when I started drawing the tattoo ideas, I was like, not only proud of my artwork for once, but it also like felt right. So then eventually I just decided that I was like, well, why am I not doing the tattoos? I didn't do a proper apprenticeship or anything like that. I was working full time in a factory and we were on like mandatory overtime and stuff like that. It just didn't seem feasible time wise. To be fair to, you know, like whoever my mentor was or whatever. I talked briefly with a guy, but he was like an old like biker tattooer kind of a guy. And I've always heard those like nightmare stories about working for people like that. And I was like, so it kind of just didn't feel like I really wanted to do it. So basically I just learned on my own. You know, I had a little bit of guidance here and there from people I knew who tattooed, but in hindsight, I would have done it differently. I would have done a proper apprenticeship, just
expedite the whole thing,
the learning curve.
Luckily,
I didn't really like ruin too many people in the beginning, but
Yeah.
I also definitely gave the warning ahead of time. I was like, hey, this is new to me.
Well, and like I said, I mean, my first tattoo was one of the first that you ever did. And even since then,
and it's a halfway decent tattoo. I still feel like,
even since then, like whenever we talk or hang out, you're always like, let me get at that and like touch it up and whatever.
And you're like, no.
Well, I can't
believe how blue.
Yeah. So I love that.
Yeah.
So
it's so blue. Still.
And I know anyone listening can't see it, and you probably can't really see it if you're watching this on YouTube, but it's more or less like it's just like a 2-dimensional looking, you know, dove flying in the flames that he used some blues and some yellows and oranges, but you've done, it's a bit of a bunny trail, but you've done most of my work. Yeah. I'm not covered up, but I've got some on my legs, I've got some on my arms, and that's basically it. But you did that piece in 2008, and to fast track it, I think the second piece you did was my leg. We started that in 2011. That's when I drove out with the Volkswagen in 2011, and you started the outline of the church on my leg, and you were kind of getting into, that was 3 years later. So obviously
and it was like, when I say part-time, it was even less than that. It was like, if I could do a tattoo a week or something, I was happy, basically just on friends, little bits here and there. A lot of times like after work, so I'd work like a
tired
8-10 hour day and then do like a tattoo or whatever. I remember tattooing one of my friends, and I really thought the tattoo was going to take like 3 hours, and it took 7. Ooh. And I did it after work. So seriously, like sun was coming up when we were finishing. And I'm thankful for those days because it got me so passionate about it.
I remember like not being too worried. I was more worried about like, I don't think I was worried at all. So that's the wrong word. The first tattoo, I had a lot of anxiety just because I didn't know what to expect experience-wise. But like when you did my leg,
I didn't have a lot of experience to be able to tell you. Yeah,
but I didn't worry about that. Like I didn't worry about like, is he like is this like, does he know what he's doing? Suck? Yeah. Like as far as the experience, I figured like this might suck a lot just because this might be uncomfortable. And it was. I mean, I still to this day don't like anything up in there. Like, the sleeve you did on me was like gone up in there too. But when you started my leg, I never really thought like is this going to be good? Like, or is this going to suck? Like the actual tattoo?
Yeah.
I never thought that. I think I had confidence in your ability and what you thought was good or not good. Because going back to being able to adapt, if it was coming out in a way that you didn't like, that you'd obviously do whatever you could to like fix it. So we get the outline done in 2011, and then this will all kind of correlate to like your path too, because later in 2011, it was like the spring or summer I came out and you started my leg. The fall, November of 2011, and I remember this because this is when my dog died. You came out to my place. You had your Audi at the time, the A4, and we packed up and headed to Nashville where my sister was living. We were ultimately heading on to Florida because you thought you were going to end up staying in Florida.
No, I
you
didn't.
did for a while.
I did, but I didn't think I was going to.
Okay, that's what turned out.
I pretty much packed up with like kind of like a month worth of stuff.
Right.
Planning to go visit my high school friends.
Yep.
And then I got down there and two of them were like not happy with their current living situations. And they were like, hey, let's get a place together. And I was like, okay.
I'm here with my stuff.
I like started seeing a girl and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, sweet.
Perfect. Yeah.
We all got it together. And it was definitely fun. I didn't like Florida when I was in high school.
Right.
But I thought that was because I didn't have my own life. I was like, with my parents in high school, I didn't have my own money. I didn't have a car. Only so far you can get on a BMX when it's going to downpour on you every day and stuff like that, So it was like, the BMX, my personal BMX scene wasn't amazing. I had a couple of friends, one built like a quarter pipe and we would try to ride street, but there wasn't really much. And like, I was in like, Coral Springs, Fort Lauderdale area. And, so like, I just thought that it was like, oh, I didn't like it because of that.
Right.
So when I went back down and I decided to stay, I was like, oh, I'm going to like it more now. I got my own money. I can do my own things.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. And then when I was there, I was like, nah, I still don't really like Florida. It's not really for me.
And I did a move there too. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine. It's all right. But, especially like that area is pretty cool. It was like Coral Springs and stuff. When I lived with them, we lived in North Lauderdale. So it was a little kind of sketchy, not great. Our apartment was like whatever. And, but it was, fun at the time.
Yep.
I didn't expect to stay, and then I stayed.
That's what it was. Yeah, I couldn't quite remember because we stopped in Nashville. That's when you started my. I'm losing dates.
I always lose the.
Yeah, and it's honestly really not that important. But you started my leg, and then you end up finishing my leg at my house.
Yes.
And that's when you. I think that might have been afterwards because I think you came out in 2012 or 13 when you finished my leg. So when we went on the trip in 2011, it's when you started my arm.
That sounds about right.
And then finished my arm because I remember you finished a lot of it up when we got down to Ashton's in Florida. Mm-hmm. And I've got photos of that because I remember taking like photos of you working on my arm. And that I think we did like 6 or 7 hours at Ashton's.
That could very well be.
And I remember like losing like myself at near the end. I was just kind of like sitting there and I remember you going like, you all right, dude? And I was like, huh? Yeah. And you're like, yo, you don't look too good. Cause I was like pasty white and I was like, yeah.
I mean, you just do that when you're tired. So it's not surprising that it happens when you get tattooed.
Yeah. And I
watched you last night after riding.
This is the way I feel right now. I mean, I am exhausted as we sit here, but yeah, I remember being like, I'm not doing too hot. And we ended up going to like a Buffalo Wild Wings at like 2 a.m. after that and still being like completely tranced out. Mm-hmm. But then, you stayed in Florida and before you moved to Vegas, mm-hmm. you ended up coming back up to my place. And that's when you tattooed like all my roommates. You tattooed like 3 of my friends.
That could be right.
Yep.
Timeline wise.
Yeah. Cause it was 12 or 13. Mm-hmm. And that's when you finished my leg and that's when you shortly after. So what year did you head to Vegas? You remember that? That was like 2012. That was 8 years ago.
Yeah. 12.
I think that was right before you moved out because I think you came out to us and then you headed to Vegas.
Yeah.
And so when you got here, you obviously came out here to tattoo, right?
Yeah. So I knew a kid out here who was from my hometown area in New York. Like he was from like the town over, Waterville. And his uncle owned a shop. His uncle's not a tattooer or anything like that. He just owned a shop.
Yep.
And he was like the kind of like shop manager and he tattooed. And he was like, hey, if you ever want to move to Vegas, I got a spot for you, basically. And I had been here one time for like a weekend with no money or anything like that. So I had like a glimpse of Vegas. And I was just like, yep, I want to get out of Florida. It seems like a good opportunity.
Yeah.
I would love to tattoo full time. Even though that's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he offered me that spot and I was like, yeah. So I moved out here. I also knew somebody else out here. Her and her boyfriend had a house with an extra room. So
perfect.
Yeah. They said I could live with them. And I had those two separate conversations, totally separate of each other. when I got to her place to like, as soon as I first got here to like start to settle in, I Google Maps or whatever, the shop, it was like a quarter of a mile away.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. I was like, I can't believe it. It's like almost walking distance, really. Yeah. It was
almost meant to be that you're coming up there.
Oh my God, I can't believe that.
Yeah.
So, so then, I got into that shop and I found out that kid was on like a bunch of drugs and it was like not really great. And, his uncle didn't really want to deal with it. So he just sold the shop to another guy. And the other guy was nice enough. He was just kind of a, whatever, boss man kind of a thing. Yeah. And it was not the ideal situation.
But it helped you get set up out here.
Yeah, exactly. I got settled in, that kid didn't last at the shop very long after that, and then for a minute I was the only artist. And then we got 2 other people who I ended up becoming pretty good friends with, Jesse and Leah. So then it was like the 3 of us kind of holding down the fort, and stayed there for about a year and a half. I had kind of done some research, like a little bit of research, like ideal shops that I would love to work at in town, Yeah. And I really only had a list of like 4. And I was like, these are the ones, and one of them posted on Instagram, that they were hiring. And I just, sent an email and was like, hey, here's some of my work.
Was that 7?
That was 7. Yeah.
Yep.
And I totally didn't expect it, cause like, as far as, we obviously think our own skill level is low, but I was like, I'm not there yet. They're easily one of the best shops in town, and, amazing artists and stuff like that. And I was like, I'll just try, and see, and ended up getting hired. And that was like, that's where it took off. I learned so much from the artists there. I could never thank them enough. They're amazing. Especially the owner, Daniel. And I learned a bunch about like realism and stuff like that, and totally, like broadened my horizons.
I noticed that's when your style of tattooing started to change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was amazing, because I'm like kind of spongy when it comes to the knowledge type of things. Like I don't need to sit for a class. I don't need to, like be taught how to do things. I'm pretty much like, I can hover and watch and
figure it out,
learn, and, ask questions here and there and stuff like that. So that really, really helped. I learned a lot of little things that you don't think go into making great tattoos, even like how you prep your stencil and stuff like that. So it was like learning all of that quickly there. That's when I feel like I became a professional tattooer, at that point.
That's awesome.
So that was really only like 6 years ago now.
Yeah.
So, and I've been tattooing for basically 13 years.
Yep.
But I really only feel like that's when it started for me, not when I moved to Vegas. That's technically when it started, the full-time thing. But when I got to 7 is when it was like, all right, this is real. There's potential in this. There's money in this.
You almost
there's
found
comfort
your
in this.
calling at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I still didn't know exactly like the lane I wanted to be for what style of tattoo I wanted to do. Yeah. But at the time I wanted to be well-rounded, and that's what I did. Yeah. And I still am. I prefer to do certain types of tattoos now, but being a well-rounded artist was important to me.
Yep.
For some people it's not. They want to do this specific type of tattoo, and they want to be as best as they can at it. And I totally respect that. That's great. For me, I wanted to be well-rounded, and
let's talk about,
I got there.
Yeah. Well, I think you did. I mean, let's talk about those current lanes. So what do you like doing the most now? I mean, I know mostly the answers to these. But.
Yeah, mine, I mean, really, like if I wanted to say, it would be like pop culture, because I'm down to do realism, pop culture and stuff too, like things from films and whatever. But my favorite stuff to do is like cartoon stuff, whether it be anime, Disney, like anything, any popular cartoon stuff. And I'm so happy that I got into that after realism, because I get to use my realism brain a little bit for it.
Yep.
Just certain things like exaggerating contrast so the tattoo will hold up better, or light sources and stuff. You don't really think about that in a 2-dimensional image.
I'm sure. Yeah.
But it really helps, things like that. So that's cool. Yeah. That's the lane that I really want to be in. If I could do Disney and anime tattoos every day, that's so cool. That's the dream.
Cause it's,
and I pretty much do, to be honest. Like I've gotten busy enough to where, to be honest, I turn down more than half of what I get emailed for. And it's just because I don't have the time to do everything. Yeah. So I want to do what I prefer to do, because I know I'm going to go into work every day happy and create the best
How crazy of a feeling is that, though? Coming from not even knowing if this could even be a thing, let alone a full-time thing, to being in Vegas where, you know, we had the conversation last night. We've had the conversation before, but even last night about like how much you love being here. Like, cause I was like, you know, do you find yourself, you know, do you see yourself just like being here forever? And you're like, yep. Like I love it here.
I really want this to be home base.
Yeah. See, that's awesome.
If the stars align and things stay going well for me in the direction that they're going, I may be able to have like 2 places.
But I mean, as far as like,
this is home base.
Yeah. As far as like, you're not yearning to be somewhere else. Yeah. You like being here. And
I love being here.
And the fact that in the 6 years that you feel like it's been since you kind of found your lane or became like a professional tattoo artist, that you're able to both financially and just emotionally, like, say no to so much stuff that at the beginning, I'm sure with anything, like for me with the laser stuff, I turn some stuff away now, but it's not because I'm so busy. It's because I'm particular about what I want to do.
Yeah.
So
it hurts to do that. Honestly, it hurts every time.
I'm sure.
And it's
because
not
somebody wants you to do
exactly
that work.
Yeah.
Right.
Like if somebody hits me up to do like something that really means a lot to them and I have to say no, I feel horrible.
Yeah.
But
in the grand scheme of things, you're at the point now where you're so established to where you've found that like style or that lane, sort of say, and now you're like, nope, I'm gonna.
I just want to focus on it because that's what I want to be the best at for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think I don't know how often. I mean, I haven't told you this before. I mean, unless you've heard me say it in person, but time and time again, like whenever tattoos come up in conversation with me and my friends, I'm like, you got to see my buddy Kevin's tattoos. Like, because even if Disney comes up, like, you got to see my buddy Kevin. Like, he does all these crazy Disney tattoos.
I appreciate that. I love that, actually.
Absolutely.
I've had some interesting things, like, obviously, like, I feel like a spud every day. You know what I mean? It's like, that's just the artist brain. We always do that. Yeah. Every single tattoo we do, like, we'll take a picture of it and look at the picture later and be like, man, I wish I did this differently.
I'm sure.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to be proud of yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I am, and I'm super happy that it's afforded me this life that I love and that it is my passion, and I get to go in every day. And it doesn't feel like work and stuff like that. But still, I never feel that like, oh my God, you got to check out my stuff sort of feeling.
Yeah. But that's a good position to be in. You'll always be in that position. You know?
And so it's awesome to see like the little things that happen sometimes. Like I did a convention in Hawaii. There's one in Honolulu, and it's super fun to be out there. And I have a bunch of friends that go, and it's just a fun thing in general. And I think it was the first time I went. I didn't really book any appointments ahead of time. And I went, and it was just like basically like taking walk-ups or whatever. And I got full for the weekend, but I was doing a guest spot at a friend's shop. And a guy came up and was like, oh, can I get tattooed by you? And I was like, no, I'm full up, but I'm going to do a guest spot if you're still going to be around, blah, blah, blah. Cause he was traveling from Australia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's just this cool older guy, you know what I mean? And like he was in like his 40s, so I was like, oh, he's a cool guy. And so I ended up booking him for the guest spot. And when he came to do the guest spot, I was like, oh, did you just walk by and see my stuff? And he's like, no, I've been following you on Instagram for like 6 months.
Wow, that's
I was
cool.
like, so some like random older guy in Australia knew my work.
How
like,
crazy is that?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh man,
that's so cool.
It's pretty cool that it can be like that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I mean, that was years and years ago. So I can only imagine now, I still get people randomly in like the grocery store or something like that. Disneyland, especially.
I bet.
Yeah. Disneyland happens a lot because I post about going to Disneyland.
Yep.
So, and I always say, like, I'll always post a story or whatever and be like, hey, if you see me in the park, say hi, friendly guy.
Yep.
So that's cool. And people will too. It's
so
amazing.
Cool. Cause I mean, that's obviously, that's correlated to why you like doing Disney tattoos.
Yeah. I just
you love Disney.
Yeah. And any subject matter. So like the process of the tattoo and the style of the tattoo, I love.
Right.
If I love the subject matter as well, it's like I get to completely nerd out over it. And it's like both sides of my brain are in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's like, I'm doing what I love and about what I love and stuff like that. Yeah. So that's super fun.
You and I did Disney World in Florida in 2011 on that trip down there. And I still have all the photos of that trip.
Wish I got a photo of you on Tower of Terror.
No, I don't think anyone needs to see that photo. Yes. So I hate roller coasters. And here's the deal. I don't
rides, not roller coasters.
Yeah, all of it. Rides, roller coasters, all of it. I don't hate the way they make me feel. I don't like. I like going fast.
You just don't trust them.
I don't like the fact that I'm not in control of it.
Yeah.
Or that I was able to do a once over on all, make sure all the fittings were greased, and you know, like when was the last time this thing was maintained? Yes, it's Disney World, and they've got crews that do that round the clock. But still, ever since I was a kid, I didn't like the idea of. I loved going fast. I loved G-force feeling. Like I loved that, but I hated the fact that I wasn't able to control it. Like put my foot on the gas and my hands on the steering wheel type feel.
I have a little bit of trouble with that, but I think for some reason with rides, my brain just blocks it out.
When we were kids, we did Disney World once a year. And, you know, I was talking to you about this earlier today, and you knew this about me before anyway. But, you know, middle-class family. My dad owned an automotive garage and a towing company and was 24/7, was just going 24/7. My mom worked at my local bank. She owned a bakery for a while too, but every February vacation, my dad would shut the shop down. Like, didn't even want to leave town with the doors still open and the lights on. He didn't want anyone in there if he wasn't able to swing in and keep an eye on quality control.
Yeah.
So every February vacation, doors are closed, the lights are off. We're going to Disney World. We did switch it up a few times. We came out to Arizona, did the Grand Canyon and some stuff, but usually every year it was Disney World. So I had that connection too, but never went on the roller coasters or Space Mountain. Still to this day, never been on Space Mountain. Like,
it's the best.
I know.
It's the best because it's terrifying.
And I've
it's
never
rattly and clanky and jarring and dark.
What's that one? The real like entry level roller coaster that was like something mountain. It was like a train.
Thunder Mountain.
Big Thunder Mountain. Only one I ever did, and that was enough. It's not that crazy, but
that's plenty.
I was like, that's good. I can see where it's going. It's not dark. I can see that there's a left-hand bank, and I can kind of like get ready for it. Oh, and I did the GM test track because it was a car.
That was cool. Yeah,
it was a car, and I'm like, let's go. Like I can't control this, but put me in the driver's seat and let's go. And that was that. And that was fun. But leading up to 2011, you know, I'd never been on any of like, you know, the Tower of Terror, Space Mountain, any of that stuff. So you and I are walking around as adults. You know, I'm 26 at this point. And and you're like trying to get me to go on all the rides. I remember being in line for the Aerosmith ride with you.
You waited. Yeah,
I was in line. I was actually in line.
Because that was after Tower of Terror. And I was like,
it?
Yeah. And I was like, you did Tower of Terror. Like, you can do this.
Yeah.
And you were like,
so let's talk about Tower of Terror then, because you're like, you're getting on a roller coaster with me. I mean, you were roasting me pretty hard, and I can take it. You know, I'm just this is the way I am. Like, I wear my heart and my emotions on my sleeve, so all my friends know exactly where I'm at.
Yeah.
So I set myself up to get roasted. You know, because I'm like, I hate roller coasters, blah blah blah. And so you're like, we're going on one. I'm like, ugh. So you get me on Tower of Terror, and this is a hilarious story, and I remember this vividly. So I know you remember me kicking and screaming going on with it basically, or basically being terrified. But when we got on it, for anyone who hasn't been on the Tower of Terror, it's basically a drop ride, but there's a little bit of a ride that leads to the elevator. And then you get up to the top of this tower and the doors open and you see all of Disney World, and then the thing just freaking drops right out from under you a few times. So I knew that it was a drop ride, and I don't like that. I'd much rather be on some crazy feeling roller coaster. But we get on it. You're sat on the right side of me, and on the left side of me, because you're basically seated in like a bleacher style setup. On the left side of me is maybe like a 9-year-old kid. On the other side of him is his young mother, who is probably only a few years older than we are. You know, so she's probably in her 30s maybe. Yeah. And so as we're sitting down and buckling up, you're like, just as business as usual, you know.
And you're white knuckled on the chair like this.
I'm buckling up and I'm like, I don't know if I should be here. Is it too late to get off this thing? And I look to my left and I'm thinking, well, there's a 9-year-old kid here, and this kid isn't freaking out at all. He's just buckling up. So, and so he was a little nervous.
Yeah, he's a little nervous because I remember him asking you.
I'm glad you remember this.
Yeah.
So he did have some reservations, and you could tell they had some reservations. But he seemed in a way better disposition than I was.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember looking at him. He's looking up at me, and I was like, "This is your first time, bud?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he was like,
he's like, "Is this ride scary?" And you're like, "I don't know, man."
Yeah,
And then, staring into the middle distance, like you didn't even look at him. You're I don't know, man.
I remember looking at him and being like, we're going to get through this together, bud.
Yeah.
Like, we're in this. And I remember his mom kind of like smart. From what I remember, his mom was just like, let's go. Like, she didn't
whatever,
care.
yeah.
But she was basically laughing that there's someone her age next to her son holding his hand, basically being like, we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So the ride starts, and it's got this little, thing that it plays through before you get up to the
Twilight
top.
Zone.
Well, we get up to the top, and the door's open, and I'm just freaking white knuckling this. I'm like, I don't like this one bit. And when the thing drops, I grabbed like my seatbelt or like the buckle of the seatbelt with my right hand, but my left hand grabbed his shirt, like the chest of his shirt. Like, I grabbed him so hard, like, because you're on the other side of me.
Yeah.
But I remember grabbing
dark,
him to both hang on to something, but to save him too, type deal. Like, not just the
like
total
instinct.
selfish. Yeah, exactly. But I was
Like when your mom hits the brakes in the car and goes,
exactly. So that was the first drop. And as we're on our way back up for the next one, I remember trying to fix his shirt, being like, I'm so sorry, bud. And then it drops again, and I grab him again. And so I just remember being terrified. We got off the ride. See, it wasn't so bad. I'm like, nope, no,
that was worse than I thought.
I'm like, I'm not doing that ever again. To this day, I still I'd get on it. It's not going to kill me, but like, I remember being terrified of it. Then we get in line at, the
Rock and Roller Coaster.
Rock and Roller Coaster. My dad and my sister love that ride.
I do too.
They integrated that ride at the end of like my family's time.
Yeah,
there.
I wouldn't say new ride, but it's
To me, it was a new ride. Yeah, to me, it was a new ride because it was like, I think I might have been 13 or 14 was like the last time my family went. And so you and I are in line for it. I'm in line. We're working our way up. And just before we get inside, I was like, nope, I'm out.
Yeah.
And you're like, you can't, what? And I remember everybody in line like watching me. I was like, nope, I'll wait for you in the gift shop.
Put your head down and walk out. Yeah.
So
I remember you went to go sit, and I remember the rest of the line took forever.
Yeah.
You were waiting for me for quite a while, and I'm just standing in line alone, like.
Yeah, I felt, to this day, I'm like, I should have just stuck it out.
Yeah.
But
It's a cool ride.
I went into the gift shop, and there was like a young girl in there, like, I don't know, comparable to my age. And we got chatting, and she was waiting for her family who was on it. And she was like, yeah, I was in line for a little bit, and I bailed out. And I'm like, me too.
Yeah.
I immediately felt a little bit better because I was like, at least I'm not the only one who does this, waiting in the gift shop like an idiot, until you came back. But so that was basically you and I's trip to Disney. We haven't done one since, which I'd like to do. I'd like to do Disneyland.
Yeah,
just because I haven't done Disneyland, and that's the first
Personally, I like Disneyland better. I grew up with the Disney World. We didn't take too many trips, but we took a few. They were like big trips, like stay in the resort, like all that.
That's what we did. Yeah, we'd always stay on site.
Honestly, I can't even believe that they did that for us, my parents, because we were never had money.
Same with my parents. Like I said, we were like low middle class. My dad did very well for the family, but we never lived beyond our means. It was like, going out to the movies or going out to McDonald's for lunch was like, whoa, like let's go. If we had errands to run, it's like, we might eat out today. Like, that's pretty cool. We weren't poor, but it was like when we went to Disney. Now as an adult, thinking about taking 4 people, including yourself, airfare, hotels for a week, Disneyland. I mean, for goodness sake, it was expensive then. A bottle of water was like $5, and it's like, but anyway,
I can't imagine bringing a family to do it. Like when I go, it's like me alone or me with like one person.
Yeah, and they might be paying their way.
Yeah.
So I think about that too. But
Disneyland. Personally, coming from, growing up with Disney World and I've gone to Disney World as an adult, I personally like Disneyland more. There might be less stuff, but it's just more compact. I feel like you can go to Disneyland and California Adventure for a day or 2 days, and you can get most everything that's worth doing done. Yeah. Which I like, and I also like that, like, Disney World, if you're at one park and you want to go to another, it might take you an hour and a half, monorail or whatever, the minivans. Yes. Any of that stuff, and it's like, so I like it. It's an experience. I do love it there. And I'll use every chance I can to go, but Disneyland feels more like I'm more passionate about it. Yeah. Like, to me, that's like, it's my happy place.
And what pass do you have?
Oh, I have a Signature Plus pass, so it's like no blackout dates or anything like that, and free parking, and I get 15% off merchandise, 20% off food, stuff cool. like that. So if you go enough, it pays for itself for sure. Yep. Like parking's $25 now.
Yeah.
And I mean, every time I go for 2 days. That's $50 right
Just
there. So
yeah,
so the fact that the
exactly.
pass is $1,400, it's like, I mean, you go 3 trips for 2 days
There's your
each. It's like,
1,400.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought it was,
A day pass, like a park hopper day pass now is like $200 and something.
how crazy is that? Because when
That's
you and I
insane.
went in 2011, it was like $120 for a hopper pass at Disney World.
Which was a lot.
And I can't remember if we might have got one. We did Epcot for sure. Was Tower of Terror at Epcot? Or was that MGM?
No, that's
MGM, right?
yeah, it's Hollywood Studios.
Yeah, so we did get a hopper pass then.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I remember it being like around $100 and being like, oh my goodness gracious.
I remember you complaining about the prices of food.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't want to eat a fish sandwich for $11.
Dude, it was 2011.
Yeah.
This was the first year out of riding professionally, which I still didn't make any money doing. So I had no money saved up.
Yeah.
2011, no money saved up at all. I had just gotten off of living the last 4 years on $400 a month salary riding for Versa. Well, and then late 2009 into 10, I wasn't getting paid monthly. I still had a travel budget with Madeira, which allowed me to travel and write off expenses and food and stuff. So I could travel for free, but when I was at home, it's like I had no money. So 2010, after being on Road Fools, I started working for a local friend in turf management, like back home.
Yeah.
So I had like a job, but I didn't have any money saved up. So yeah, now we're on I think I'd been laid off for the winter, and it was November that we went down there. So I had like no money, and I'm like, I'm going to spend all my money down here.
Yeah.
So that's why
it's really easy to
that.
spend money at Disney too. And like, when we were kids, our parents, we were like, hey, can we have that?
Yeah,
and sometimes they would say yes, and we'd get some stuff.
You
and
didn't
then
understand.
when you're an adult and you go like, that's one thing that for me with like Disneyland and going so often, I basically tell myself I'm only going to go if I can go without a budget,
and just go and have fun.
Because I don't want to stress about that stuff. So and if I see something I really, really want, I'll buy it, and sometimes it's like, oof, that hurt. I bought a like screen accurate Kylo Ren helmet when they opened up Galaxy's Edge.
Yep.
And that one hurt. That was like $750.
Jeez.
But oh man, I feel so good about that purchase. So I wanted it and I got it. And it's
that's
like,
awesome.
But yeah, like when I think about it, like when we were kids, like I just can't believe our parents could do that for us.
Did it.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
So I have the same exact outlook because I'm like, man, like the things that I still have, even just the Mickey or Minnie ears. My sister had a set of Minnie ears. Like, that's probably so expensive.
$35.
Yeah.
So it's like a headband.
And my parents being like, this is our 1 week holiday a year. We're gonna give the kids a good holiday, which is just I'm super grateful for that.
My mom was big on Christmas. She had she worked 2 jobs a lot, but she had like I forget what they call it, but it was basically they would take money out of your paycheck for Christmas, before you even get it.
So it was like a fund for
exactly. And then you get a check in like November. Like
Christmas presents.
Here you go. Here's for Christmas.
Yeah.
And she would always do so well. I'm super, super thankful for that. And
that's awesome.
And I was really, really close with both my grandmas.
Yep.
So like I got spoiled by them, spoiled by my mom for Christmas. It's pretty amazing to be spoiled, but I mean, we're pretty poor. So I was always impressed by that and always super thankful of that. And it was cool actually. Like once I started to become successful with tattooing, I was kind of like, now I can give back to them a little bit. You know what I mean? And that was always the plan. And then my mom and stepdad bought a business and now they're doing like great. So they don't need me at all.
Good for them.
And I was like, oh, I mean,
that's
cool.
awesome.
Someday I still really want to someday just buy them something that's like outrageous.
I think about that a lot too. And I think it's important to at least, even if you can't get to the point financially where you can like justify it or be even able to swing something like that. I think about that a lot because my dad, he had all sorts of like dream cars before I was born, but they were ultimately always to flip, but would in the name of the family type deal. Yeah. And he sold in 1974, 1975, he had a 69 Chevelle SS 396, beautiful, like the super sport package, big block, 4-speed manual Chevelle. And he sold it to purchase my mom's wedding ring. Oh, and
what a man.
Even though he was a Corvette guy through and through, he had C1 and C2 Corvettes, never owned a C3, like early gen, first 2 generation Corvettes. Yeah. even though he's always been a Corvette guy to his blood, the first ones, he still will talk about like, because he was a business owner. So when he got out of the automotive industry, it was to save himself from a mental breakdown. Like quality control was tough. The towing business was a 24/7 deal, and he was the only one who ran the trucks.
That's so demanding.
Always. Sleep schedule was always thrown off because he was always up at 2 or 3 in the morning to like be over an embankment, hooking onto a car that rolled over on like a below freezing or below zero night or something. So he was run ragged.
I've been saved by one of those guys before. I know exactly that deal.
And so he got out of that to basically, he gave up like a money-making machine basically that he had built over the course of 40 years to save himself.
To save his brain.
Right. So hindsight's 2020. He wishes he had never done that because now he's like 65. He's going to be 65 in a few days now and like semi-retired. He's the hardest working man I know. Loves what he does. But like I look at his life and I'm like, that guy deserves to kick back. He wouldn't kick back, but that guy deserves to have like, to not worry about the budget or the money.
Yeah.
Which he does. He worries about it all the time. Yeah. And he's got some properties and he's trying to sell some, but it's like he's waiting for a property to sell in order to put a new well in at the house I'm renting out or whatever, and so I think about that a lot. I think about like, man, and I'd like to swing it now, even though I'm still trying to figure out where it is I am and how to.
I mean, I'm. That's one thing about me. Like, I'm not as established as I want to be for sure.
But I want to buy.
Like, I'm renting this house. I really want to buy a house.
Yes.
It's like.
But I want to buy him that '69 SS Chevelle. And obviously, that's like a mega expensive car now.
Yeah.
But like, there's nothing I want more than to like have that thing in the driveway at his house, and be like, I've done well for myself, and there's the like the fruition of it. Like, take mom out to dinner and that thing, So I'm glad you kind of have the same.
Yeah. If we're talking straight up car things too, like my mom, she's not like a car enthusiast, but every time she sees like a newer muscle car that's in like a cherry red convertible or something like that, she says, like, "Oh my God, I wish I could have," like when when they redid the Camaros and stuff like that, she was like, "Oh, I would just love to have a cherry red convertible Camaro." And I'm like,
and you're like, lights going off.
Well, I'm like, oh, man, that'd be so cool. Cause I mean, she drives, a great car and everything like that. She's not like, whatever. I think she has a Cadillac at the moment. My stepdad's Cadillac guy.
Yeah.
But it's not like cool. You know what I mean?
Get that.
And my mom is kind of cool, sometimes. And she gave up most of her cool to raise me.
Yes.
She was like my dad was like a Harley guy and stuff like that, and my mom, as soon as she had me, she was like, nope,
done.
Yep. Yeah. Done with all that. That's what my parents did. Thing.
Yep. That's what my parents did. My dad always says it's BC, like when he talks about the Corvettes and stuff, like before children.
Yeah.
Like
that's cute.
The 62 Roadster was BC, what he's talking to his hot rod buddies. He's like, oh, you know what that is, so, I am going to pause this. We're going to come back because I have to pee so bad. I can't even think straight. Where did we leave off? We were talking about like buying our parents cool stuff.
Yeah. That would be great. I mean, I have things like both like business wise and home wise. I really want to do first,
or have to do,
Then once I'm set up, I'm going to start kind of thinking about doing something like that.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's
really cool. For both my mom and my stepdad. My stepdad's been, the one who's raised me, and he's amazing. He's my favorite person.
That's awesome.
So
that's the way I feel about my real dad. That's good to have that like that family like connection.
Yep, super amazing. I got really lucky with
that whole situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great, man. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen your mom since 2011 when I was at your house. No, 2008 when you did my first tattoo. I think that was the only time I met your mom.
Yeah, that could
have been. She might have come by when I was there in 2011 when you and Tony were living together.
Yeah,
I can't remember, but regardless, well, it's awesome that you're out here doing it. You found your lane, because we were talking about that late last night where it's like, it might look like I've found my lane. I have no idea. I don't even know what highway I need to be on. I don't even know if I'm going in the right direction. I've just heard that just do.
Do.
So I'm just doing.
Yeah.
And it's not cultivating what I think it's cultivating. and especially not at the rate I wish it was cultivating at.
Right.
So
that's all that stuff's really out of your control.
It is.
That's the bummer.
And I've been learning to surrender to that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really difficult to do because, like we were talking about last night.
I did that with tattooing for sure.
Yeah, but you kind of like worked at that, and it finally paid off.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I don't even know.
But it could have not.
True.
And I'd been right in the same space.
But I don't even know what I want to be working on.
Yeah.
No idea. So it's. I
mean, like I said before, this is one thing for sure.
Could be,
and it's a thing that works well for a lot of people. So
yeah, and that's the other thing. It's like if something like this is ever gonna like pay any sort of dividends or any money at all, it's like you got to continue. You got to really go for it.
That's with everything. Yeah, you put in the hours and then it pays off.
And I enjoy doing this first and foremost. That's what I figured this would be a good extension of content for. I travel anyway.
Yeah.
And I talk to friends, and I think I have interesting friends that have done really cool things and are on really cool paths. So I was like, well, I'll start a podcast to give them a platform, but maybe in the process, like it could become something down the road. So I'm not doing this to make a big podcast and make money and have sponsors.
Yeah.
I'm doing this because of what I just mentioned with friends and having cool, interesting
purpose
people
and passion.
That's it. But in this day and age, it's completely plausible to possibly have it make you like a career type deal. So anyway, that's
cool when like the cards fall as they may. You know what I mean? Like I totally didn't expect to ever have my own studio. It was just never in the
let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. So without really going through all the years, after you left Seven, you and a business partner started a tattoo shop.
So basically he left Seven, like they just had a falling out, him and the owner, and that happens quite often. And he and I had talked before about doing our own thing sometime because he's basically my best friend, so
mention who that is too, because
his name's Robbie Pina.
From
he's from the band Molotov Solution, and
I'm sure
he's got the band connections too, which is cool.
I'm sure there's people listening that know the band because you and I both like are into like hardcore
music
death
too,
metal. Like we're both into music, but we both like the heavy stuff too. And so I thought it was cool that I haven't met him. But when you mentioned that he was in Molotov Solution, I'm like, I know that.
It's
band.
cool how like the band stuff and tattoo stuff can bring people together, but it's almost the same world, you know what I mean? He and I made a friend, we were at the Portland convention and he was walking by and his band was playing in somebody's booth and he was like, that's my band.
That's hilarious.
And then they became friends and then we became friends. I
love how that works, man. So cool.
Stuff like that's cool. So he left that place and was, weighing his options, whether he goes to another shop or does a private studio or whatever. Private studios are really only feasible if you have the clientele. Because you don't take walk-ins, it's not like no advertising, it's whatever. You're just have a place to do your tattoos that people are coming to you for. And he ended up finding a spot that was big enough for two, and it was a really ideal situation, great location, like simple, like it didn't really have to be built out. I mean, we had to put in a sink and stuff like that. But anyway, he asked me if I wanted to join him, and I was down for it. It seemed like a good time for me to step out and kind of do my own thing. Not that I was like upset with where I was or anything like that. I was obviously they were all my friends and everything. It was just, it seemed right, and so we decided to do it together. And essentially it was a place for he and I to work because we already had the clientele and everything like that. We could do our own thing, it's basically in like a salon, but we have our own private room and with our own private entrance and everything like that. So it's like completely separate from that. The owner's amazing and loves us and let us do whatever we want. So we painted everything the way that we wanted to, everything, made it our spot. It didn't need a huge like build out or anything like that.
That's
it
good.
just sinks, and health department has like a few strict things that
codes.
have to be in place, and as long as they were, we did it. So, and we were both in a position that we could afford to do it, which was cool. Because it definitely cost more money than I expected it to really like get started.
Get it off the ground. Yeah.
Yep. And I mean, we're still doing things. And then eventually, you know, we had a guy come with us. Basically, he's like new to tattooing. So he would work either in like either one of our stations or set up a little temporary spot, the little bits that he was working, and then just basically pay us for the day.
Yep.
So there were 3 of us. And then the room next to us opened up, and she offered it to us first before like offering it to anybody else to take over. And she said we could knock the wall down in between and everything like that. So we did that. Obviously that cost more money, but
exactly.
It was worth it in the long run. So Angelo had his own space, and then now we got somebody else now. So it's like, it's still a growing thing, but it's amazing to like, first of all, I didn't think I would. Second of all, I didn't know how possible it was.
Yeah.
And it's really cool because I love the private studio feeling, because we're there when we're tattooing. We're not when we're not, you know, it's not like a storefront. It doesn't need to have, you know, employees that do this and that. It's like, it's our little baby. We make sure it's clean and tidy and do our work there and add to it as we see fit, you know?
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's super cool. But that's still growing, and we want it to grow more. Yep. So obviously I have that in mind as well as, personal stuff.
And what's the name of the shop?
It's called Neo Tokyo.
Yeah.
We named it after both of our favorite like anime film is Akira. So we were brainstorming ideas for names and stuff like that. And I think I was the one who came up with that. It just seemed like a, you know, fit for like the theme. You know, he loves doing anime tattoos. It's not like his like focal point, but he does like black work, like illustrative black work. And that was also cool that we had the balance, because his like he does like no color, just black work stuff. And then I do a lot of the color stuff. So it was like cool. You got between the two of us, you can get, you know, most of what you're looking for.
It's an awesome name too. I love that name.
Yeah, I think it's cool. It's super fitting. It kind of fits that like 90s view of the future.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I always love in like any film, much less, but especially anime.
Exactly. Yeah, I like it in film. I like it in automotive design.
Yeah,
automotive technology. I like it in all that sort of stuff. Even music. I didn't get into that show, but I just love the name and its connotation. Like it's like substance. Or
yeah, because I mean, a lot of different animes kind of play on that like post Tokyo, you know, like there's a really popular one called Neon Genesis Evangelion, and it's Tokyo 3 because Tokyo has been destroyed 2 other times and rebuilt. So it's Tokyo 3. So this one's Neo Tokyo, New Tokyo.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And we both love Akira. We actually just watched it recently. They released it in theater. So we
cool.
Yeah, we watched it like subtitled in the theater, and it was amazing.
Wow,
IMAX,
awesome.
I think it was.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool that they've been kind of doing that. Actually, like bringing older movies back. Like we watched Princess Mononoke, which is another like super popular anime.
Yep.
Miyazaki's like the Disney of anime.
Okay.
It's like fairy tale style stories, very colorful, like beautiful stuff like that. So that's cool. It's awesome. Cool that we can see them here. Disney actually helped bring them to the States.
Oh, cool.
So the like dubbed versions have like huge voice actors and stuff like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was actually Lasseter who's like the main guy from Pixar now. It was like his baby to bring him over. And so if you buy the DVDs or whatever, you get the Disney opening, even though they're not Disney films.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
But yeah, like our just love for that lane of stuff, and you know, we get to do a decent amount of work that fits that theme too.
Yeah, all your stuff seems like it is too, whether or not it's anime or like you said, the Disney stuff.
Yeah, but. So I mean, we wanted to have that kind of a theme rather than just have like a name. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's context to it. Yeah, because anyone who exists,
anybody who knows,
they know. Yeah, exactly.
It is cool that like sometimes that happens. People are like, oh,
I love that. Yeah, that's really cool.
And there's not really a lot of shops that have really a theme, you know what I mean? So they have maybe a visual theme or something like that. But not so much like
a theme from the get-go. Yeah. The whole idea of the shop.
And we don't, the way that our shop looks right now isn't super like the direction we maybe ultimately want to go with it, because we want it to fit more that theme, you know, lots of neon and stuff like that. We have a pretty cool idea to like hopefully make the shop almost look like an alley in Tokyo.
That'd be
With,
really
like
cool.
all the neon
Yep.
and like, the metal and concrete and
Yep.
stuff like that. So
Yep.
whatever our future, if the stars are aligned, that's the plan.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Be
you get the
super cool.
visual feel too.
I'm super stoked on the name though and stuff. So now
Yep.
we're got to start doing more like merchandising and stuff of that. But it's we've only had the shop for a year. October was a year, so it's our little baby growing.
So cool, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
super cool.
It's so awesome that you made the move and not knowing that obviously in the future
Yeah.
things were going to line up. And
I didn't know if it was ever going to be like financially possible and stuff. I didn't really know what goes into owning a shop.
Right.
But now that I've learned, it seemed doable, so we did it.
And that serves as motivation for me too, because that's what I love most about my friends who get things done that are artisans in a way, and I mean entrepreneurs for sure. I mean that word gets muddied up a lot, but it's essentially you are where it's like I'm gonna invest in something that I believe in.
Small
and my
business.
set.
I mean, it's like you kind of have to nowadays. You know, like working for anybody else, you plateau.
Yeah. You reach your
wanna grow.
ceiling.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ceiling's there. If you're hourly or your salary, it's like there's only so many hours in a week.
Yeah.
And there's only, if it's salary, it's like I'll get overworked or that's it. So I'm in the same boat as you already know. It's like I don't know where my ceiling is with the laser stuff, with any of the other stuff.
Yeah.
So although it's slow a lot and I get frustrated and I constantly question whether or not I'm in the right lane, I haven't reached the ceiling in those lanes yet. So it's like I might get some big job with the laser thing and I'm like, whoa, if I did this every week, this is like all the support I need financially.
Yeah.
But so it keeps you going. So it's really cool that you guys are kind of like at the genesis of this new shop, and it's like the sky's the limit from there because
I mean it already feels good. It already feels comfortable when it's the beginning.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine where it's going to go.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Super exciting too. It makes it's like, I don't know. It feels so good to go to a place that's yours.
Yeah. And you're not just paying for a booth fee or paying rent or whatever. I mean, you're paying rent on the spot, but it's your, like you said, it's your shop.
Yeah.
Like you call the shots basically.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Well, I'm happy for you, man.
Thanks.
We need some more seat time. The last time you tattooed me was 2012 or 13.
I
so.
told you I'm in.
Yeah. I really, if this trip wasn't so last second and we weren't out, it's perfect. We landed on 2 of your days off here. I mean, that worked out perfect.
Yeah.
And obviously didn't want to make you work while we were here. But for me, getting tattooed by you now is huge for me because
That'd be cool. Yeah. Cause you can see progression. You can see
just on the 3 big pieces. Well, I mean, one, but 2 of the big pieces that you've done on me, you can obviously see your progression where it's like your style had changed. And so I want like, passing through here now, it'd be awesome to get something small, but I'd love to work on like another big piece where it's like,
that stuff's more fun. Like the little trinket tattoos are like, you're cool or whatever, but it's never something like you or I will be like proud of. So, but if you do like an actual piece, it'd be great.
So I'm super excited to talk about that and line that up. Like you said, you're trying to do that trip across America.
I mean, that'll be our best bet for it, I think, because I'm basically booked until then anyway.
That's so crazy.
So it's insane.
So as we sit here, it's the week before Thanksgiving in November and you're booked out till May next year.
Yeah.
That's so
It's ridiculous.
awesome.
I hate it, but I love it.
Yeah, exactly. We had that conversation too, where it's like, you hate it because you almost like
I'm not like a ridiculously spontaneous person, but I do like to just like, oh, you know what? I'm going to go here now.
Yep.
Or if I get offered to do something or whatever, like conventions and stuff.
Yeah.
We'll get offered to do them sometimes. And it's like, well, I'm already booked, so I can't.
So, I mean, I get that.
I can reschedule people. I really feel bad. I don't like burdening anybody based on time because when it's done to me, I know how I feel about it.
Right.
So.
Yeah. But it's cool that although it can be a frustrating feeling because you want to like have some free time and be able to be spontaneous.
That's also a comfort in knowing that, you know, I have the work. And
me, for how sporadic my income is with the laser thing, if I had jobs booked out till next May, just the thought of that, it's like, oh, like that.
Yeah.
You know, we're doing it. It's happening.
I definitely do that. It's a comforting feeling, especially financially, but also, also the fact that I know that many people want to get my work. That's a good feeling too.
Well, and in that same scenario, like you said, where you wanted to slow down the insanity. So you upped your rate thinking it would cut.
Yeah. I just figured, it would weed out some of the less serious people.
Exactly. And you were at the point now where you were at that level too.
Yeah. Well, I felt like it. I mean, you never really feel like it, but I was like, oh, we'll see. Yeah, I anticipated it like slowing down my booking quite a bit, and it didn't at all.
So
you know what happened was, I got like maybe 3 weeks of kind of, few emails here and there, and people were like just didn't reply after.
Yeah.
To like the rate or whatever like that, and I was like, man, maybe it wasn't a good idea. But then after that, it just went back to normal.
Wild. But your work speaks for itself. So
I mean, I try really hard. So I feel like
yeah.
it's worth it. And I know plenty of artists that charge way more than me. So it's not like,
I
want to be fair to myself and to the client. That's
but you're at the point now where, where you're getting compensated the way you should be.
I spent a lot of time, in my opinion, giving away my work for what it, significantly less than it was worth.
You undervalue yourself in your work.
I do the same
everybody
thing.
Does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, and the good thing about that now is, I can afford to, if I want to give somebody a break for something, like say there's a tattoo I really, really want to do, and I'm like really trying to book it or whatever, I can post about it and say, I'm willing to give a break on my rate because it's something I really, really want to do.
Right.
And sometimes that alone is like, oh, I'm getting a deal and I get a piece that I want and that he's passionate about. So I get to do that. And I'm not really like breaking the bank by doing that as well too. So that's really cool. My favorite project that I have going on right now is, I was talking about that Miyazaki. He's got a bunch of films, and I wanted to do either a sleeve or a leg sleeve from subject matter from those films, but I wanted complete control of it. So I posted up that offer, I'm willing to give a pretty significant break on my rate. If you will lend me your empty limb and let me do, because honestly, those movies, like start to finish, are beautiful. Every single character, every single scene. So it's really hard to hate any of them. So if you are a fan of his films and you give somebody complete control, you're not really going to get stuff on you that you don't like. Whereas with other stuff, that might not be the case. So
you're just getting a tattoo for a discounted rate, and you're like, I don't really like
exactly.
this, but
exactly. And so I knew that whoever is going to get that piece was going to be like, oh, I'm really happy with this piece no matter what. So even if I didn't get to choose. So that's literally my favorite project I'm working on, because it's 100% me.
Awesome.
I'm like, what reference do I like that fits in this space? We've just been kind of puzzle piecing it together. I asked him what his 2 favorites were, because there's like big canvas areas, and I wanted to put his favorites in those spots, so I did that and just picked my references that I loved from those films and did that. So that's like almost the whole outside of his leg is just those 2 films, and then I've been kind of filling up the rest, and it's super fun. And like I go in and I make significantly less on that day than I would normally, but I'm so happy doing it.
See, that's awesome.
And I can afford to do it. It's fine.
Right.
That's where I wanted to be at with tattooing, was that it's just comfortable all around, and I get to do so much stuff that I'm like passionate about. It's cool.
That's the dream. It really is the dream. Even though you're dealing with day-to-day logistics or whatever, like that, you're literally living the dream.
The money about it is whatever, because like, speaking from experience, you can be miserable with or without money.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
So if I get to do the things that I love to do, then that's what matters.
It's very crucial to be doing just that. It really is. So how can people reach you? Instagram, obviously, Kevin Furness Tattoo.
Kevin Furness Tattoo, and our shop page is Neo Tokyo LV.
LV.
Yep. And you can find my homies that I work with through there. There's 4 of us now, so
heck yeah.
Any
other platforms that you're on? It's just Instagram, right?
Just Instagram. I pretty much just do that. I gave up on Facebook because it's too, I don't know, I just got tired of seeing people that I love post things that I don't love.
Exactly.
And
Very
I was like,
true.
Whereas Instagram, it's a little different. You get some of that, but not so much.
More photo content.
And more photo content. And my work is visual, so it's a great
Likewise.
It's a great place to see that.
And Furness is Furness. Right? Okay. Kevin Furness Tattoo.
Yep.
This is awesome, man.
I know.
I'm glad we did this because I
That's
know
cool.
when I first proposed it, you're like, I don't really like talking. So
Hate the sound of my voice. Sorry, everyone.
well, it's not as bad as mine. So, and like I said, we literally no camera, no mics. We're just gonna hang out in your house and just chat and talk about stuff. A lot of stuff we already know, but
Yeah,
I think
it's
lot
cool.
of people,
Honestly, cool. It was cool to relive the timeline a bit because I'm so bad at that. I never really know. Like you do it way better. You're like, oh, it was 2011. We did this, and I'm like, it was some years ago. We did this. I really have no idea.
You're not the first person to say that, and I don't understand why. Because I think the only thing I chalk it up to is for some reason, and it's because I've had so many cars. For some reason, I correlate the year to the car I owned.
Which is great because you at least have like a
and I can base
starting point,
right?
A general idea.
And then before the car thing started, as far as modifying cars, because I remember what cars I was like, it's a part of me. You know, like each car was like what car I was.
Do you know
curating.
how many you've had?
Over 100.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't at the moment. The last time I counted, like 4 years ago, it was over 100.
That's insane.
Or right around 100,
Yeah.
maybe. And there's
When I tell people that this Tesla is going to be my 13th car, people are like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you've had so many cars."
Yeah,
I'm
pretty
like,
wild.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm not a used car dealer, so I don't think that counts. If you've got a dealership license,
Yeah,
and you're
that's different. That's
you've got
different,
8
yeah.
cars on the lot, or
Yeah.
or 40 cars on the lot at all times.
Yeah.
Like I don't even have a garage. Like I work out of my dad's shop, and I don't have a garage where I put cars. So, nor have I ever.
Yeah, you
So,
got that little bay.
Yeah, so I've got. Yeah, I'd like to count it up. The last time I counted it up, I didn't make a written list, so I've got to start over.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like a winter night that I had a few friends over, and we just over to the house, and we just like started talking about the cars we had. And I remember thinking back then, I might have started a list, but I don't know if it's on
How do
my
you
phone.
remember?
I don't. That's the hardest part.
Yeah.
It's like I remember the first few cars I had. I remember the cars I had through high school. Then there's like, I did a lot of traveling because right out of high school, it's easy for me because right out of high school, I hit the road with BMX. And so then from there, I correlate the years to what I was doing with BMX. So it's like 03 was the year I graduated high school. That was the year I headed cross country with my friend Pat. 04 is when the first year out of school, but moved to Queens.
Yeah.
I moved to New York City for like a few months with these like other BMX guys. And that was the year that I broke my frame and started riding the Federal Hamilton. And that frame carried over into 2005, which was the year I first got sponsored by The Take. So that was my first pro sponsorship. That was a pinnacle year for me. But
Yeah.
that was the year I was 20 years old. So like those two coincide. And then 06 was the year I got put on Madeira. And that was like big for me.
Yeah.
And then 07 was my first photo in BMX Plus magazine. I did a bunny hop truck down the bank to sub at Baco in Florida at Mesh Skate Park.
Yeah.
And so that was 07. I remember that. So that helps me think about all the other things that were happening in 2007. 2008 is when I bought my Mark II GLI, the Riger kitted one. But it was also the year I got put on Versa and had the opportunity to design a signature frame.
Yeah.
09 is when the band I had, like one of the third band I had started in the last couple of years around that time, had broken up. And I decided to head to Florida. So I moved to Florida in 09.
Yeah.
I was riding for Deco.
See, like to me, I would never be able to remember the number.
Right. I just remember because it started at 03 when I graduated high school, and I just remember the chronological order. Because I've got a terrible memory everywhere else, but for some reason I can remember my timeline. Yeah. So 09, I had a Volvo 850 wagon on the way home. When I moved home from Florida, I totaled that wagon, and then I didn't have a car, so then I went and bought a Mark II GTI that I found for $200 in Connecticut. Or $400. And then in 2010, that's when I started the Volkswagen project.
Yeah.
And that was like that was the beginning of actually like learning to fabricate. I'd always like welded here and there, but like really diving into that project. And then from there, without boring everybody listening, from there on out, it was the car projects are the pinnacle years.
Yeah.
And I just remember that. So basing it around what was going on with those cars, I just remember that 2011 is when you tattooed my leg for the first time.
Yeah.
So yeah, because my memory's so bad and I'm 35 now and there's been a lot of years since high school, like that's been the goal, is to be like, all right, well, I'll remember 2019 because it was the year I finally bought a Toyota Century that I searched for forever.
Yeah.
2018 was the year I finally bought a Russian Lada.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know.
Lada, I love that thing.
It's like, it's how I've been. 2017 was the year I finished the E23 and it was featured in a couple magazines. I don't know. It's just,
Yeah.
I don't have a wife and kids, and like I don't like oh, my kids was this old, or you know,
So
maybe
the cars,
someday. But
the cars are your babies.
that's it. So that's how I'm glad I was able to help you
Yeah.
travel down memory lane.
Yeah, at least it'll get it a little bit in order. Because sometimes I'm like, you know, like which order did things happen?
Right.
I just remember it happened, and I remember it was a while ago.
Yeah.
And vaguely remember where I was or living or whatever. But
I get caught up in that whirlwind too, because now that 2021 is going to be the 6th year that I've been like self-employed doing the laser thing. It's a whirlwind. And I wouldn't even know if I didn't have the car stuff to almost act as like mile marker cars for the years. I wouldn't know what year I did what with the business.
Yeah.
I have no idea. It's a rat race, and I'm ever practicing budget, like time budgeting, and like being able to like continue to curate my life and everything that surrounds it. So.
Yeah. Honestly, it's like one of those things, like I really wish I kept track of things, like wrote things. I never write anything down.
Yeah.
Even like filing. I'm not great at filing, you know.
Me
I mean,
too.
I do for work because we have to with our like waivers and stuff.
Right.
But it's just never been my thing. I've never really cataloged. I've never.
Yeah.
So I'm not. When I'm 60, I'm not writing a book about my life because I won't.
You can't
know.
remember.
Yeah, I won't. I won't know where it's going, which is fine for me. I'll just live in the beautiful chaos and then disappear, and nobody will know about me. It's okay with me. Hopefully, I leave some art behind. But
absolutely.
But I mean, even tattoos is not art you leave behind because
you get put in the ground.
Yeah.
Or burned.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
I really got to get back onto the actual like fine art thing. Like I completely quit that.
Right.
I don't ever.
Well, you're so busy with the tattoo stuff.
Yeah, it's really hard to want to make art for yourself when you're so
Right.
busy making it for other people.
Exactly.
But I should. I mean, I have friends that do that, and I totally respect them for that, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
And someday I'll get there. It's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard to motivate yourself to want to do it.
Yeah.
Mentally and physically, because like it's such a strange thing. Like I sit for a living, and I'm like moving my hands. You know, it's not
Right.
like it doesn't seem like a physically demanding job, but it is pretty physically demanding and super mentally draining.
Wearing,
to where I get home sometimes and I'm like,
yeah.
and it takes me a while to reset. So like, I really respect some of my friends who can like come home and paint.
And grind. Yeah, and keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my friends, Miguel, he's a monster. He's sketching or oil painting like every day on top of tattooing.
Yeah, it's wild.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's just, and he has a family, you know,
Yep.
he's got 2 kids and a wife.
Yeah, I envy that. I mean, I feel like I've got that deep down. Sometimes I wonder, people are like, oh, you do so much. I'm like, yeah, but I feel like I'm half-assing all of it. You know? So
Yeah, but it might just be the way that we feel.
True. I mean, I'm my own worst critic as well.
Yeah.
I know you are to your
So
art.
bad.
Yeah, I mean, mine's the worst with music. With cars, it's like I don't half-ass the car because the car can just be the car no matter what. So I
Yeah.
can do some things to it, and I'm like, that's good.
Yeah.
I like that. I could always go deeper, but with
Yeah.
music, it's like I'm not just gonna post that song when it's not finished. And then do I really like it? No, I don't. No, never. I've got hard drives filled with like albums worth of material that like no one will ever hear because I'm like, I don't.
Yeah,
I feel like I
you don't
can't
like it.
finish anything. So.
Yeah.
But well, dude, let's go get some food. You hungry? I'm hungry.
Always hungry.
All right. Well, it's a beautiful Las Vegas day in November, so I'm happy to be
A
here.
little windy, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's all right. I'll put up with that because it's like 20 degrees Fahrenheit back home right now in New Hampshire. So I'm happy to be here.
I keep telling everybody the grass is greener where there's no grass.
Hey, oh, yeah.
Well, I love it out here.
The grass
It's so
is greener
nice.
where there's a lot of rain, but I don't like the rain either. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I love it here.
Your turf out back here is green.
Yep.
That doesn't need any
Nice
water.
and spongy. Feels good on your
It
peat.
does feel good.
Yeah.
Well, awesome, man. Yeah, so once more, Kevin Furness Tattoo on Instagram.
And Neo Tokyo LV.
That's right.
Go see my boys and support them too.
Yeah,
They're
phenomenal work,
wonderful.
man. I'm
Thank
excited
you.
I'm excited to sit under the needle again with you.
No, you're not.
Hopefully
It's
next
gonna
year.
hurt.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It's been 7 years since I've been tattooed, and that's why. 'Cause
Yeah.
I don't like
I
it.
took a little break too, and then started working on my leg really.
Yeah, that's where I think I'm working next. I've got a couple pieces on both legs. I think I'm going to start filling that out.
And you already have your calf done, and that's the worst of it. So you know
I didn't like that one bit.
it hurts.
Yeah, you started with the steeple on the church. I remember
Did I?
that. Yep.
I started at the top.
Yep.
Ooh, that's backwards.
You did 1 and 2, and I was like, "That's good.
Yeah.
I'll have a cross on the back of my leg. That's good."
Yeah.
No, we're done. We're not doing it anymore. Mm-hmm. And yeah, now it's like almost the ditch of my knee down to the back of my ankle.
Yeah.
Color and everything. And
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy that one bit.
That's pretty horrible. I always feel bad.
I put up with it. I mean, like I said, my threshold's high for pain. I just I don't have to. Like when I get hurt riding, I now have to put up with that pain. Like, I don't have a choice. When I'm laying there getting tattooed, I'm like, I can just be like, that's good. Stop. Like,
But you can't.
No, I really can't. But
Yeah.
if I really had to, I could.
It just sucks because it's constant.
That's it.
It's not mega painful. It's just constant. And
And
that's
I'll
annoying.
never
And your
forget-
body hates it and your mind hates it.
I'll never forget your, like how much time ago left? 5 minutes.
In 5 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that from years ago. You're like, 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
2 minutes, Turkish.
It was 5 minutes, 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or it was 2 minutes first, and it was 5 minutes, Turkish. It was 2 minutes, 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, cool, man. Let's go get some food. Steakhouse tonight. I know you're trying to get me into that.
Cleaver.
I'm at the beginning of.
Anybody coming to Vegas, go to Cleaver.
Shout out.
Delicious.
I'm at the beginning of this long road trip, driving a V8 Japanese car across America for God knows how long. So, steakhouse sounds good. Doesn't sound good on my wallet, but we'll do it. Whatever.
It's worth it.
Once. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening so much. Kevin Furness, one of my oldest friends. Happy to be here, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for listening. And yeah, hopefully I'll have more good friends on soon. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.